Feeling inspired by the personal top 10 movie list created by the amazing Cinefix team, I decided to join the conversation. Not about movies though, here are my picks for the top 10 most personal TV shows of all time. Comedy is not easy. It's hard to be funny. It's even harder to be funny consistently for the stretch of a whole season or many seasons, and I think that's why this category was the hardest to put together. I'm usually looking for something special in my comedies. Sometimes it's lowbrow humor disguised as highbrow humor like in Frasier, or just nailing the characters from day one like in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, or pulling off a serialized sitcom like in The Good Place, or a pitch-perfect true crime parody in American Vandal. But the most special, undisputed king of comedy is Chappelle's Show.
I'm Rick James, bitch. Enjoy yourself.
Up until Dave brought his effortless brand of comic genius to television, sketch comedy shows were hit and miss, and mostly miss. But Chappelle introduced iconic characters and memorable bits so consistently that no other show comes close. And no, Key and Peele is not on the same level. I was always proud of the fact that I got in on the ground floor of the show and knew all the references before many of my friends. I'm not going to dig deep when it comes to anime. While I'm not very well versed in anime, I'm also not completely ignorant. Yes, I did watch and love Sailor Moon and Pokemon, you did too, but I also really got into Trigun, with its tragic, revolver-wielding, $60 billion double-dollar man. Then Full Metal Alchemist taught me what tragedy really meant. However, with this list, I'm not talking about the best anime. I'm talking about my most personal, and that is by far Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball Z. Dragon, come.
I don't think I'm alone in this choice, so I don't believe a lot of explanations are necessary. Dragon Ball was just the coolest, most intense thing in the world. In my mind, the 2000s is best represented by an online Dragon Ball animated music video set to In the End by Linkin Park. Some shows are cultural events. They're what you talk about around the water cooler at work, the ones you binge the moment they come out to avoid spoilers. Then there are those that nobody's talking about, the ones you love but are so obscure no one else has even heard of them. For me, there are two such shows. The first was a show that shaped my adolescent conception of what is cool. Revisiting Spy Groove today, I still unironically feel that this silly show about two secret agents that are so chill and laid back that all they do is party with celebrities is so beyond cool. But it doesn't have the charm of my actual pick for this category, Captain Star, a show about the greatest hero any world has ever known.
Captain Star journeyed the universe in his ship, the Boiling Hell. His orders, to discover new worlds, name them after himself, and then sell them things.
It was a children's cartoon that dealt with the treatment of the elderly, commercialism, propaganda, and depression. It's absurd and melancholic, and I don't know who approved this for children, but I'm glad they did. Both Captain Star and Spy Groove only ran for 13 episodes, and they were never released on DVD or streaming, so I'm afraid they will forever remain in obscurity. I personally don't pay much attention to American Idol or whatever other popular competition shows are all the rage, but there are some competition shows that have caught my attention. There's a web show about cartoonists called Strip Search by Penny Arcade, which is a surprising gem. Ellen's Design Challenge channeled my love for woodworking, and even though I normally loathe trashy and contrived reality TV drama, Framework, the other furniture building competition show, was a guilty pleasure of mine. However, the only reason this category even exists is because of the Great British Bake Off.
Welcome to week 2 in the Bake Off tent. One baker's gone, they're not coming back. Sue's also gone, but she will be back. Last week was a piece of cake. Now it's crunch time. But who is going to snap first? Welcome to the Great British Bake Off.
It is the most lovely, charming, and kind competition show there exists. It helped me realize that it's not competition shows I didn't like, but all the nonsense that usually accompanies them. On Bake Off, there is no prize, no drama, no mean judges, and the competition takes place on the weekends, so contestants don't even have to disrupt their lives. It shouldn't work, but it's my favorite competition show based solely on the amazing judges, adorable hosts, and positive contestants. When I spoke about comedies earlier, I left out animated shows because they deserve their own category. Animation should take advantage of its medium to get a laugh. Animation has the ability to do things that just can't be done in live action. With the exception of King of the Hill, which is such a good sitcom that it can honestly be directly translated to live action without changing anything. There are shows like Futurama and Rick and Morty which will always be special as they're not just hilarious, but they're love letters to science fiction. Then there's The Simpsons, the granddaddy of animated comedies, that would easily have taken the top spot in this category if it just knew when to stop. Stop, Simpsons, please stop. But my personal pick for animated comedy TV show is The Venture Bros.
And I'm Enrico Matassa, Latin playboy and insane egomaniac. My name means Hank, and I'm also using a hank of yarn as a weapon. Also, this is a huge hanky.
Part Watchmen, part Hanna-Barbera cartoon, and entirely brilliant. This weird world where heroes and villains are just bored millionaires looking for a thrill had me hooked. Unlike some other shows, The Venture Bros gets better every season, with more parodies, more crude jokes, and more unexpected turns. It's just frustrating that it takes 2 to 3 years for a new season. So you spend your life not knowing what British panel shows are, until one day you stumble upon a clip of Sean Locke playing the Carrot in the Box game, or Jack Whitehall scared by a pink blob, and before you know it, you've spiraled into an endless binge of Stephen Fry's brainy quotes on QI, the insanity of 8 out of 10 Cats, which was so abundant it spilled over and actually completely took over a separate show to become 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown. Then you'll lose all confidence in your ability to recognize the truth on Would I Lie to You. Well, at least that's what happened to me, and it all started with my pick for the best British panel show, The Big Fat Quiz of the Year.
You keep stoned! You've finished all my sweets! You know, this was 5 years of that! 5 long years! Every day I bought a tray of sweets, and a f***er like you took them!
It was unlike anything I had seen before. A meaningless game show that served as a vehicle for delivering off-the-cuff quips from a rotating roster of Britain's funniest comedians. Plus, they all appeared on a whole bunch of other panel shows that do the same thing, creating a connected mini-world of personalities that I really wish we had in North America. Think about it. Imagine the cast of Whose Line Is It Anyway on a silly trivia show with rotating comedians. It would be brilliant. This category has a short list, as I've only really let 3 science fiction shows into my heart. The first was Star Trek Voyager. I enjoyed the diversity of characters, themes, and tones that the show worked with. I mean, the ship's doctor was a snarky, opera-singing, sentient hologram. Enough said. Well, that was enough said, until Battlestar Galactica took the idea of a ship being stranded away from home and used it to completely overhaul the entire genre. It dropped all the tropes of episodic space operas and brought a grounded, realistic, gritty show with consequences. I couldn't believe that the best show on TV dealing with philosophy, politics, religion, and ethics also took place in space. And my pick for the most personal sci-fi show is what I consider the spiritual successor to Battlestar Galactica, and that is The Expanse.
Travis's parents, they believed in your dream. They gave up everything to go to Mars, to provide a better life for their only son. I'm sure Travis believed in that dream as well.
He did.
Though it's based on a book series, I feel that it took all the groundbreaking elements of Battlestar Galactica's far-off galaxy and brought them into our solar system, making the show a lot more personal. Yes, it stands on the shoulders of giants, but it's also a giant itself. With an impossibly well-balanced script, there's never any filler. The science is spot on, the themes are varied and thoroughly developed. Also, this is a first. It's a sci-fi show with a budget that can actually keep up with its ambitions. It's an evolution of television, from Voyager to Battlestar Galactica, and finally, The Expanse. The more I get older, the more I appreciate more mature dramas. Yeah, it's nice to laugh, but sometimes you want to get serious. I may be mixing genres, but in this category, The Expanse gets a mention again for its strong dramatic elements, but so does the Neil Gaiman modern myth show American Gods. I'm including Mindhunter, David Fincher's foray into television, Dark, the super complicated German Netflix show that must have been a nightmare to write, but is a pleasure to watch, and how could I not mention The Wire, as it's widely considered one of the best TV shows ever made. However, I feel that my pick, Better Call Saul, does not get enough love for how much it's doing for the genre.
You do what I do because you're funny and you can make people laugh. I committed my life to this. You don't slide into it like a cheap pair of slippers and then reap all the rewards.
It's a show that spends enough time with its characters that events with such small stakes have you on the edge of your seat. A board meeting on Better Call Saul is more exciting than any murder case. There's a scene in the show where a character spends several minutes taking apart a car piece by piece, and it had me glued to the screen. No gimmicks, Better Call Saul is pure drama. Now before I get to my last category, I want to get real for a minute. Not every show that starts out good ends up delivering on that promise. There are some shows that build you up just to let you down. Prison Break. After finally escaping, why would you go back to a different prison? Daredevil. How could you make ninjas boring? I mean, Sherlock was great until his deduction skills became a superpower, and then it became unforgivable when he started using Saul as an inspiration. And The Simpsons. Keeping that show going is just plain cruel. But my most disappointing show was by far Lost.
I've done everything you wanted me to do, so why did you do this to me?
The poster child for lack of payoff. No matter how bad later seasons of The Simpsons are, I always have untainted classic episodes to endlessly quote in real life situations. Not so for Lost. The only allure the show had for me was anticipating the answers to all the questions it posed. The ending of Lost was so unsatisfying that it retroactively rendered the entire show meaningless. My final category is animated epic, or you can call them action-adventure cartoons. These shows mean the most to me because they link my childhood to my adult self. I've rewatched these shows many times in their entirety, and while I was entertained by them in my youth, I'm in awe of them today. These are shows that are creative and unique like Reboot, or shows that were epic cross-genre adventures like Gargoyles. Then there's Young Justice, a show that provided stories and dialogue with nuance I'd never seen in superhero cartoons before. Then you have Batman the Animated Series and Justice League cartoons, which have the definitive version of those iconic characters. But the most personal, and what I consider to be the best TV show ever made, is Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I know my own destiny, Uncle.
Is it your own destiny? Or is it a destiny someone else has tried to force on you?
Stop it, Uncle. I have to do this.
I'm begging you, Prince Zuko. It's time for you to look inward and begin asking yourself the big questions. Who are you? And what do you want?
This wasn't a difficult decision. If there was an award show in my heart, The Last Airbender would win pretty much every category. It's got great animation, a gorgeous soundtrack, and the best, most thoughtful fight choreography I've ever seen. The world building is top notch and the story takes full advantage of it. Even its spin-off show, The Legend of Korra, gave it a good try but couldn't get close to the genius of The Last Airbender. What really makes the show so personal is the characters and their relationships. Friendship, love, obsession, redemption, hate, joy, honor, paranoia, fear. It has it all. This show is the real deal, and that's why I think it's the best and most personal TV show of all time. So that's my list, and I want to hear yours, so please tell me in the comments below. And if you've seen The Last Airbender, tell me who's your favorite character by tweeting me at HelloMaxamad. And please check out Cinefix, which inspired this top 10 style video. Thanks guys, see you next time.